Suits is on Zoom with us for YouTube. Suits, how jealous are you of my Tim Tebow jersey, if I can turn around and show it to the camera?
Yeah, I saw that. I know you want to dig into that a little bit later today, so we can save it for them. But it looks good on you. Have you been a fan forever, or are you on the bandwagon all of a sudden?
Yeah, well, I tried to get a Jets jersey with him. I enjoyed Tebow. I enjoyed what Urban Meyer did with him at Florida. I thought he was a lot of fun. When he went to the NFL, you thought, I can't believe you spent a first-round pick on him. But he's this guy who draws attention and just wanted to compete and play football and play hard, and he represented a lot of the great qualities that we like in our athletes, just not the skill to be super elite in his sport or even, passable in his sport.
Yeah, the numbers are there. I mean, if you look at the numbers of and the percentages of players that come from high school football through their college systems, even Division I, big schools, and the minute percentage that actually play pro football and become, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year stars in pro football, I mean, it's less than 1%. And so, a good college career gets your foot in the door. A good college career gets you noticed and drafted, so it gets you some upfront money if you're in the NFL. And then that's it. You've got your play and how you go from there depends on what you do when you get on the field and how you take it. I've said it many times, DT, that the pro level is played from the neck up so much more than people give it credit for. I mean, Tebow is a great athlete. He really is. I mean, that's why they want to look at him at tight end. And he's got that size. He knows offenses. He knows zones. He knows how to read defenses. So all of that will help him and all of that. But the question I have is, at that level, are you ready to make the mental commitment at the pro level every single day, every single morning you're studying, every single day you're training, and then it's going to get hard. It's going to get really hard at times. Fans will be on you. Will you overcome that? You will have a nick, an injury that you're going to have to play through. Will you overcome that? What about when the coach makes a decision that puts you on the bench for a day? Are you going to overcome that? And then all of that stuff, that a lot of which comes from the shoulders up, that's when you find out if you're able to take it to the next level. Because a lot of those guys athletically obviously could play.
Yeah. Yeah, and the interesting thing will be, all of us who have passed both milestones know that 33 years old is not 24 years old. Those are different. Those are different times, and I suspect even for professional athletes, but for non-professional, non-athletes, 33 and 24 were totally different.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. Tim Tebow will look very different on day 1 and 2 of training camp than he will on day 3, because on day 3 is when the aches and pains hit you. So you come in on day 1 and everybody looks like, Superman. I mean, people are flying around. One-on-ones are super aggressive. DBs are up playing press and just going nuts. And, receivers are catching deep balls with one-handers. Day 2, it slows down a bit. Day 3 is hump day. And that's where all of those aches and pains, the lactic acid in your legs, it feels like you're running in bricks. Yeah. And then you got to overcome that and fight through it for 2 or 3 days, and then you sort of get into your routine. And that's, again, that's the line in the sand. That's where, Johnny Manziel didn't make it for different reasons from the shoulders up.
Yeah.
And Tim Tebow's got that challenge in front of him. Good athlete, that gets you in the door, but that's only opening the door.
Yeah, seems like a good dude. I root for him on one level, and when he gets cut, it'll be like, oh, yeah, at least he tried. At least he tried. We should talk some CFL, because there's some confusion as to where are we toward getting our game back in this 2021 season. TSN, your colleague Dave Naylor had reported during the draft that all 6 provinces had given either verbal or written approval that games could be played in return to play. Strictly for the this plan you have looks good for your guys can play other guys in our province. Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation wrote a story over the weekend saying that BC had not approved its deal. Quote, the BC Lions have made a recent proposal for a return to play in the Office of BC Provincial Health Officer, currently reviewing the submission, consulting with the federal government. Will have more to say about what a return to play looks like in the weeks ahead. So the crux of the Three Down Nation story is, BC hasn't approved this yet. And we're reminded, Glenn, that this whole process of how do we get from no football to football with fans in the stands is long and winding and incredibly complicated.
Yeah, very uncertain, and it will remain that way until we actually kick it off, unfortunately. And I think that's what fans really have to get their head around, is that we all want to stay invested in part of it. I mean, I know there are a lot of people that have sorts of season ticket deposits that they're leaving there with the teams, which is outstanding and really helps the teams right now and helps them pay employees and things like that. So it's big, but you're wondering, at what point am I going to, bail, because you're looking for that sort of ink written announcement from public health. It's just not going to happen. I live in BC, and believe me, I am watching closely every single Bonnie Henry and Adrian Dix announcement. They have communicated on a regular basis with the province of British Columbia on where we are with the vaccine, the third wave that is hit hard in some cases here in Vancouver, and they're still battling through. There's still too many people in ICUs, too many people in hospitals. So, I think the messaging is always based from the medical professionals on projections at the time. So they look at the vaccination rate, they look at the virus and how it's still spreading too rapidly for their comfort level. 20 people in BC over the weekend passed away because of this disease, sadly. So that's that's the reality of what they're dealing with. And then they have messaging, which is, if they want everyone to stay at home and not travel unnecessarily, especially with the May long weekend coming up. And they want to say, listen, don't do it now. We've got a lockdown right now. And to a point where they're putting roadblocks on different highways leaving the city to make sure they check with people and make sure that it's essential travel and they're not going on holidays and things like that. And so when they make that kind of message and then are asked, well, can we play in August? They're going to say, well, we have to see in the next 3 weeks. But here's what I'll tell Saskatchewan fans, because I know it feels like Saskatchewan's getting a better handle on all of it, vaccination rates, and have a nice plan of recovery for the economy sort of laid out. And I think, that was even asked of Bonnie Henry today. I was watching just before it came on, and she was asked that question. Saskatchewan has a rollout plan already out there so that people can kind of look at it and say, hey, by this date, I may be able to open my restaurant again, full to a big, more capacity. Yeah. And she said, well, that sort of surprised some of the other provinces that it was out there and that official, but also that they are working on it here. And the good news is they have right now over 2.2 million British Columbians have had their first vaccination. They have another million coming in the next 3 weeks. That gets you to, let's say 3 weeks gets you to 3 million. You got 5 million population, not all of which are, eligible for vaccines because they're too young. So you're looking at real close to herd immunity percentages in that category between 70, 85, 90%. Now, I'm not a medical professional, but following very closely, that messaging, DT, hasn't changed really at all. Yeah. So, I think, and I'm not in the meetings. I'm not sure where David Naylor's source was or whose source, he was going off of. But I would say that they project right now it's a third wave that they want to control better. So the projection changes a little bit. Well, we're not going to look at big crowds in August just yet. Until this straightens out quickly. Hopefully, and I think I'm certainly trying to stay optimistic that we can turn the corner quickly once we do get that edge in the vaccine versus virus race.
Yeah, here's the thing. The Three Down Nation story, Justin Dunk's story, makes it seem like, well, this is a setback to all of us getting football back, right? To us getting football back here in Saskatchewan. I just want to put out how it was explained to me today, because Naylor said that verbal or written approval had been gotten from all 6 provinces that have CFL teams. This is where it gets pretty confusing along the way, but this is how it was explained to me. The 6 provinces had to give some sort of approval to the CFL to hold games in their province. That's not final approval. It's just, yes, you can have, we think what you've laid out is good. You can now go to the Public Health Agency of Canada. The Public Health Agency of Canada is the one who would give the exemption for people coming across the border, what's called a national interest exemption for people coming across the border, which is invaluable. It's absolutely, the CFL needs this. So the provinces have said, yes, you can go make that application. When you are done with that application, when that's approved, you come back to us as 6 different entities, the provincial health authorities. In BC's case, they apparently need to get to 3 different health authorities because they play in one place and they practice under a second health authority, and they have a camp in a third health authority in Kamloops. So there, it gets complicated for BC. So once you get back from the federal level, you can come back to us and we will all refine our plans. So no one has, as I'm told, no one has final approval from their province to hold games, because it's absolutely impossible right now.
Exactly.
Because you need to have talked to the Public Health Agency of Canada before you get final approval to hold games. We approve of your plan on the provincial level enough so that you can go talk to the feds and then come back to us, and we'll get the little final things done in this. I'm told, this is from folks who have reported it, I'm told that all 6 provinces have given support. It is, as Naylor reported, it's just not done yet. And then another line that absolutely needs to be drawn, I think the Riders did a great job of nailing this down, Craig Reynolds, was there's return to play, players versus players on the field, and there's another part of return to play is us going to watch those games is a whole different thing. The province can approve guys playing other guys on the field without necessarily approving 5,000 of us can go watch it. Those are totally different things. So, but they sometimes get put together under return to play. We have to kind of define which part of it we're talking about. We have to be very careful when we discuss all this, because I just sat there explaining that for 2.5 minutes and it's still confusing as hell to me. But as it is right now, the 6 provinces have said, yes, we like what you have. Come back to us when the feds say it's good to go, and we'll work out the final details. So in essence, as it was explained to me, nothing has changed from what Naylor reported last week.
Yeah, and this is what she said, and I think this was in the 3 Down Nation article as well, where she said in the next few weeks we'll be able to update you with a lot more detail. So, like you just pointed out, there's lots of moving parts, and they are all in support of trying to get the game back up and running, as they are with business in the cities, and trying to get restaurants and restaurant owners back and get their employees back hired. And, schools are part of the conversation. So, there's a lot of moving parts here. I think there are some questions though, and messaging is really important.
Yeah.
Messaging right now from the league, messaging from, to be consistent, for instance, and I know we got to take a break, but for instance, the messaging on, could we play 2 or 3 games without fans? Because there's been a mixed answer there.
Yep. From different ownership groups, right? Yeah.
Yeah. A couple owners in Montreal and Ottawa have said, hey, we could play some games. I know Rick Lallisher in BC has said, they're looking at if they could even get 7,000 fans in BC Place and spread them all apart and all that. There's mixed messaging there, because the league office at times has said, it has to be fans in the stands for us to go. And I don't even know if they've said it that succinctly, but they've suggested
Yeah.
that they need fans in the stands to kick it off. So, I think, again, it leaves us all speculating a little bit when we hear different messaging.
Yeah, and that's been the thing since day one, right? We had it in Saskatchewan, where the first early on, the province said one thing, the city of Regina said one thing that was different, and he went, oh, that's not going to be good. And eventually everybody came to the same page, and whatever it is, you just got to get out one message, one clear message, because then we're going to come on radio and fumble it around and ruin it for everybody. But it's important that we just get one message. So the thing to think about from the CFL end, I'm told, is that they couldn't be where they're at if all the provinces hadn't approved on some level the plan that they have for returning to play. The fact that they are talking to the federal government, the Public Health Agency of Canada, one of the requirements was all 6 provinces be on board, not fully committed, not signed in blood, but nothing has changed, and we're making progress toward getting the Canadian Football League back. It is 5:48. We will take a break. Plenty more in fine tailored suits with Glenn Suter coming up on the Cage. In that Edmonton game, Connor McDavid, no points and -1. So Alan Mitchell of TSN 1260 will join us a little later to talk about what's wrong with Connor McDavid.
God, score a goal, will you?
Gets to 100-point suits and then he just gives up. What's happening here? Hot Take Radio. Boom.
Boy, he's worth the price of admission, isn't he? Man, we can get back to watching games.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And there's talking about him earlier. There's nothing. There's not flash to his personality. If you just saw him walking down the street, you'd be like, okay, there's a guy who doesn't go outside much because he's quite pale and his beard's kind of scraggly. But goodness gracious, just magical on the ice these days. It's amazing.
Really, head over heels. It's a real separation. And hockey is really, you find that. And when I hear guys like Wayne Gretzky, who was sort of one of my heroes, that Wayne Gretzky was the only sort of celebrity that I've ever met. And through our jobs, we get a chance to meet a lot of celebrities, like, different guys that come to games and come up to the booth. But I got to meet Gretzky when he was the owner of the Argos. We had lunch or sort of a brunch in Vancouver before a game one day. And I sat right beside him as a kid growing up. He's one of my heroes. And he was the only guy that I had nothing. I couldn't say anything. I was frozen. There was 1,000 things going through my mind. Ask him about the Argos. Ask him about, when he scored 100 points in 30 whatever games.
Yeah.
Asking,
the Canada Cup. Oh my God, what about that? You fed Lemieux for the goal. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm just sitting there like, hi Wayne, you're great. You're great, man. You're great. I love you, Wayne. Yeah.
Who is this lobotomized fellow I'm sitting next to at lunch? That's I suspect that was not an uncommon occurrence for the magnitude of star that Wayne Gretzky was.
But he said Connor, he said he likes Connor's maturity, and that's what I meant. Like when I hear him say he's a better teammate and player today than he was last year, that's a great sign. And wow, who knows where the ceiling is with that kid.
We were talking about this earlier. I kind of want McDavid to stop and smell the roses at some point. He does this for 2021 hockey. 100 points in 53 games is incredible. And some of the post-game comments for him were about his teammate who played his 600th game, and this guy had gotten his 500th point or whatever. I'm like, at some point, just give us a little bit of, yeah, you know what? Things go really well for me. Or you know what? Just acknowledge that you're a great hockey player. I just want that from him so bad, and I don't think I'm going to get it. His Hall of Fame speech is going to be, Leon Draisaitl carried me. That's what he's going to try to sell us. And I just wanted to just admit it. You're awesome. Just smell the roses for a moment.
Yeah, I see why there'd be a lot of fans that would just, love to see a guy break the mold like that a little bit. Yeah. But I'm the opposite. I love when I hear players talk about being great teammates, because I really believe it's the difference. Like, Connor McDavid is a great, great player, the greatest player in the NHL right now. But has he won a championship? And that's got to be in his mind. And what he knows is that in order to do that, he's got to have all his teammates, including the third line and the backup goalie, have all got to be playing great, above their capabilities, do it throughout the entire playoff run, get their nose dirty every time they get a chance to.
Yep.
all the greasy goals. I mean, that's how you're going to win a championship. He knows it, and he knows his teammates are relying on him, and he's relying on them. So I love when I hear guys talk about their teammates when they're the stars. That tells you the culture is good.
I like it. All right, Suits, we were talking about this earlier, Zinger and I. Gosh, with Tebow going back to the NFL, we were trying to think of athletes from other sports that we would want to see try to play football. We had the suggestion from the text line of Tyler Myers, the big defenseman, 6'8", give it a shot. Zdeno Chara at 6'9". We obviously always, for football, we always come back to LeBron James and how a guy who's 6'8" and 265 and can run and jump and is an incredible athlete could ruin some people in football. Give me an athlete from another sport, whatever sport it might be, that you go, I'd be curious to see him in football in this role.
Well, I don't know the names, but if I'm thinking of sports like the top rugby players in the world, I'd love to see some of those guys go and put the gear on, put the pads on. I have great respect for rugby and how it's played and the team atmosphere that's created. And I told you the story one time about my honeymoon and working out with the Fijian rugby team when I was training as a Saskatchewan Rough Rider at the time. And these guys athletically, I mean, tree trunks for legs and just powerful, in shape athletes. And I've always thought, man, if I was a GM of any team, I'd fly to Fiji and I'd be recruiting Fijian rugby players to see if they could come and make the transition, because there's some great athletes. So that's the first thing that jumps to mind. But it would be cool to see a guy like, Michael Jordan, who is, how tall is Jordan?
6'6",
and just as athletic as he is, and what he could do with his body control when, he's in the air making moves and that ball's moving from hand to hand and behind his back and around his head, and then he's dunking, and all that happens while he's left from the top of the key to the hoop. And you're thinking, with that kind of body control, man, that guy could be a receiver that would just make you look silly with the ball in the air.
Kawhi Leonard with his 6'7" frame and the hands that are like my hand plus 50 per, like just massive mitts, just throwing him a little fade route in the end zone could be amazing. Basketball players seem to be the one that we default to. Is there these just genetic freaks, right? Of 7 feet tall this or 6'8" and huge that. It's interesting. I wager they would all be better than Tebow will be at the age of 33, but. We're going to get the Tebow show, and I'm going to have to buy a second jersey because this Broncos one is a little out of date now. Suits, thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
Thanks, DT. Look forward to it. Talk on Thursday.